if you were looking to buy a house here in Calgary, we literally just had the busiest July on record ever, mainly driven by condo sales, and frankly, housing prices have set records all over. Oh, and Calgary is also the best place to watch UFOs in all of Canada. So, are you in the right place? Do you want to know about the market, what's happening in Calgary? Well, we got lots of stats, lots to talk about, so let's jump in. So every month we put together a downloadable PDF that you can download that has all of these stats and a lot more if you really want to. So jump in the description, find the link, go download that report as it's going to give you a lot of insights. But the first thing we want to talk about today is Alberta's economy is forecasted to grow by 2.4% in 2023 and 2.2% in 2024. Although slower than the pace that was set last year, Alberta is expected to be one of Canada's growth leaders. And also in this report, they said higher interest rates are adversely affecting businesses, families, and entrepreneurs. The lagged impact of the higher rates is expected to weigh on consumer spending, home construction, hiring, and will be particularly challenging for anyone holding large amounts of debt relative to their income. And we've already seen some of the home construction world kind of slow down the beginning of parts of this year. And they also said in this economic outlook, while the Alberta economy is doing well and better than most other parts of the country, the lingering effects of elevated inflation and the still to come full impact of high interest rates will pose challenges for many Alberta families and businesses. This other report that I found that is from Edge Realty, their summary of an Alberta summary they did in June said this: housing in Alberta remains more affordable today than 15 years ago, the only Canadian province that can make that claim. Affordability arbitrage is driving massive inter-provincial flows. And we've talked about this lots, right? We talked a lot about what's happening with people moving here, all that kind of stuff. And what's really interesting, and I appreciate Ben Robideau, who writes this article or does Edge Realty, he said this: the Canadian economy is very interest rate sensitive, right? We all can see that. The interest rates have really changed and a lot of the economy is like that. But economies in Ontario and BC are far more rate sensitive than they are here in Alberta. I believe those provinces will be heavily stressed by higher rates and would cause a national recession long before rates become a crisis for borrowers in Alberta. My question to you is, when do you think interest rates will actually start decreasing? They have forecasted that we're going to see it starting more into the middle of 2024. But do you think we're going to see it sooner? Are we going to see it later? Put it in the comments. I want to hear it from you. Have some conversations. Make your predictions. My gut is that in the middle of next year is when we're going to start seeing it. We're going to have to stay where we're at for a long time. But like these articles said, a lot of the rest of the country is much more rate sensitive than we are. Our interest rates haven't slowed us down in terms of what's happening and just the pace of what's going on. So let's talk about this. The city of Calgary. These are the numbers that all talk about year over year benchmark prices for different zones. So a lot of the city is about 5 to 6% higher than what it was last year in terms of benchmark prices. Now, the difference here is Northeast and East Calgary, 10% and 17% increases. What is happening as prices are increasing across the city, the more affordable areas, because their average prices or their benchmark prices are $474 and $389, where pretty much everywhere else is kind of high, mid 500s and even high 6s and low 6s, right? So there's a big disparity, a big difference between values in those areas. If you're truly looking to maybe buy a rental property and you're kind of hoping for appreciation in the future, I mean, East and Northeast, you might actually see more growth over the next year or two than you would in some of the other areas. Now, if you're looking for more of a family-friendly place that you want to live and grow, and you can afford the prices in the rest of the city, a lot of people are moving to those areas. The Northeast, it's more affordable than the other parts of the city, and there's some great communities in there too. Rental market. Where else in Canada, maybe North America, I don't know, But where else are you seeing a 45% year-over-year growth in properties being built specifically for rentals? I mean, the number of condo buildings and apartments that are going up in the city that are specifically made for rentals, they're not going to be selling them as units. It's a lot. Like, if you actually start looking for them as you drive around, you're going to see a lot of them. And that is very, very fascinating to me. There's a real need for housing. There's a need for rentals. I understand that when people move here, some people don't want to own a property, and that's okay. But when you move here, sometimes you want to rent first for the first 6 months, a year, 2 years. But there's a lot of rental properties that are being built, and I find that very, very fascinating. Inventory. This is what I really want to talk about today. Inventory, because we can start sounding like a little bit of a broken record if we keep talking about record prices. This is amazing. Is it ever going to end? Like it's here. This is what we're doing. For us to have a normal market and feel like it's good for everybody, the buyer and the seller, we probably want to have in the city anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 listings on the market, right? Like everything, not one product type, but everything. And now we're sitting at, I don't know, I think it's probably close to like high 2000s, 2,500, 2,400. Like, it fluctuates quite a bit, but we're kind of in that ballpark, mid 2000s. And we might see that increase over the summer a little bit, but I feel like it'll just go away again as people keep buying up stuff. There's a few things you want to watch for in 2024 and 2025. These are all things that could potentially impact the amount of inventory we have as we move into next year. Interest rates dropping will cause people to want to sell because they don't have to move if they don't have to move. And holding on to your low interest rate in a high inflation where it's more expensive, everything else, why would you move, right? Unless you really needed to or want to. Owners needing to renew. If they're forced to change their interest rate, well, maybe now's the time to make that change, and they might as well buy and sell and make the change if they wanted to do that already. People being called back to the office is all about people going back home. We've actually had conversations with you guys who are watching us, who are saying, hey, you know what? We want to move to Calgary. We are in Calgary. We love Calgary. We love being here. But I'm now being called back to my home office, and they want me in the office, and it's more than just like 3 days a week or 3 days a month, sorry. And I can't give up that job. So we need to move back. So we've had some of those conversations. I don't know if it's going to be this mass trend, but I found that interesting. And so these things are all going to be things that we can watch for as we move into 2024 and 2025, because they're going to be some fairly strong indicators of what is actually happening and inventory potentially coming to our market. Now, months of inventory, you can clearly see we're still hanging out in the seller's market. It did jump up, which is expected over summer. There should be less sales, more inventory, stuff sitting a little bit longer. That is a typical normal cycle. And if you actually look at all the months of inventory for the different property types, this is very interesting, how everything is sitting nicely low, right? But what I wanted to do is kind of just only go back to the last 2 years. So you can see here, we've had an increase in detached. We've had a decrease in semi-detached. Actually, I think all three of them are basically a decrease from last month. The only increase was detached properties. But as we've had some big swings in terms of months and percentages of increase and decrease of the inventory, we have gone from early 2021 from a $447,000 benchmark price across the city, all property types, to a $567,000 benchmark price across the city. That is a big change. And if you're from Calgary and you're trying to just understand what's happening in the market, there's a lot happening. And basically, there's just not a lot of homes. And you may be someone that's sitting there going, yeah, I don't want to move. I'm just going to hold off and wait. Then what I want to share with you is you need to get what's called a home beat. A home beat is something that we set up for you that you are able to then monitor what's happening to properties just like yours. And then you're able to basically make decisions based on prices, timing. We can talk about interest rates. We can talk about all of those things. So if that's you, reach out, info@chamberlaingroup.ca, and just put in the subject line home beat, and we will get that set up for you. But there's a lot of things that are happening, and from someone, I'm from Calgary, born and raised, seeing some of the prices and the amount of offers that are going on things, even though I'm in the industry, I am still shocked. I am really surprised by some of that. And I don't think it's a bubble. All those articles I showed you at the beginning, all of those articles did say Calgary isn't in a bubble. It's not where we are. And so that's fascinating when I read all that. Months of inventory. So this is now looking at the zones. So if you're looking at all the zones of the city, northwest, north, east, west, southeast, all that stuff. A year ago, look at the spread that we had. Not just that, but look at the spread right here. The city center, which is the green, the top green there, this line, even now, is still a lot higher. But there was a 1 month spread a year ago in months of inventory. And months of inventory, if you don't remember, is how long will it take to sell everything at the current rate of sales for the last 30 or 90 days or however you're calculating it. And back then, the 30-day inventory there was a 1 month spread between all the different zones, not city center. Now you look at it and we're like 0.5. Yeah, it looks like it's a 0.5. Like we're all within, it's all below 1 month of inventory in all of those areas. And so things are really, really tight. Despite that, we still have the highest number of sales. How is that happening? There's a lot of stuff coming on and a lot of stuff going off. There's the highest number of sales that we've had in July, at least since we've been tracking since 2013. And you can go back further, and I know it would probably be the record-setting number. And it's not like we don't have new listings coming on, because we're right at the top peak there. When you start hearing sales to year to date, like we are, I don't remember the number, but I think it's 29 or something % behind the number of sales we did last year. Well, yeah, we should be. I mean, look at that. We had intense spring market last year, and we are now more in the flow of a regular market. If you can see, there's a very clear trend right through here. And we are now in the flow of more of a regular market, which is kind of refreshing. And so we expect there to be kind of a jump up in the fall and probably a little bit of a fall off as we go into the new year or in the end of this year and into next year. And that's probably what will happen, most likely. The black line, it might come up in like this and fall down. That could happen in terms of new listings because there could be people who are pushing forward, again, for the same reasons. Maybe they're up on their 3, 4, 5 year interest rates and they're going, hey, let's make that move finally. There's a lot of reasons that it could change. Despite all that, we still have this record low amount of inventory. And that's what's so interesting in our market right now, is just when something comes on, if it's good, it'll go. And even if it's not good and it's just priced well, even if it's just under 500,000, it'll just move sometimes. The market is really, really crazy, really, really tight. A lot of people looking to buy. So what does that mean? Well, we've created a little bit of a gap this last month in terms of the number of sales versus the inventory. Is it a gap like we've seen in other years? Not even close, right? Not even close. And so that is probably going to disappear fairly quickly as we head into the fall. We've kind of upped our prices. We're up $567,000 benchmark price. As you can see, we are still increasing, and we have been increasing. This is the month over month and year over year numbers for benchmark prices. So we are still increasing when it comes to all of that. And specifically, when you look at detached homes, again, this is where we're starting to see that inventory creep in, which is a good thing. Prices have gone up again, kind of sitting, I think it was 680, so roughly around that. In the report, it has all the exact numbers in there. These are just the charts, but you can see there's a little bit of inventory for semi-detached, but they're now the average price is over 600, or the benchmark price over 600. Townhomes, this one here, look how it's shooting up there. There's not a lot of inventory for townhomes. Look at that. This is the opposite of the detached homes right now. So what's happening is people are moving down. They can't afford the homes, so they're going down to townhomes. because those prices, the benchmark price is still just low 400s. And so there's a lot of sales, a lot of activity, and you're going to see that similar in terms of condos, but there's still a lot of inventory. So let me explain this. Why we're seeing the red over the blue in townhomes versus the blue over the red in apartments. But Jared, you just said before that condos are leading the way in terms of what's happening in the market. Well, townhomes are also condos, because a condo has a condo fee and association that you're buying into. So not all townhomes have that. Most of them do. So when we're talking condos, you're talking about townhomes and apartments because they have a condo fee. So just know that that's kind of how we talk about that. But secondly, there is a large backlog of people who have owned condos for a long time who are tired of being a landlord. And the inventory is on the market, and it is coming to the market, and we're getting lots of calls about that. And that's okay. That's why we see this big blue extra space between inventory and sales compared to the townhomes. So that's what that means. That's what it is. If you're thinking of making that move and you have a townhome or a condo, please let us know, because you have to strategically place it. You have to do the right pricing. You got to do the right things inside your property to make it all happen. And that's very, very, very important. And what's also very important is downloading the PDF and heading over to this video right here, because if you like stats, you like numbers, you are going to want to know the crime rates of areas in Calgary and what is happening. Because do you want to move into a crime-riddled community, or do you want to find the best of the best? We'll see you in that video.